Hello. Today we're going to be doing Spiritual Warfare, Freedom from Demonic Influence, Part 9. In this part, we're going to be talking about inner healing. Inner healing is a very important topic when it comes to spiritual warfare and freedom from demonic influence. Everyone has times in their life when bad things happen to them, traumatic things, painful things that causes deep wounds within their soul. The thing about soul wounds is that they do not heal over time alone. It really takes a touch from the Lord when the wounds are very deep within us in order for them truly to be healed. But over time, they will be pressed down deep within us and they will scab over. But yet, there's still negative emotions within these soul wounds that causes us all kinds of trouble and still causes us pain. So today what I want to talk about is how we can go to the Lord to purposefully allow Him to heal these soul wounds. And I do want us to see how the negative emotions that comes from traumatic events in our life, how it truly does open up the door to the demonic, and how important it is in order to gain freedom and keep our freedom, how important it is to have those wounds healed by the Lord. Traumatic events that cause soul wounds, they come from all different kinds of things like physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, abandonment, broken relationships, different types of rejection, sudden or violent death of a loved one, seeing acts of violence, life-threatening events like car wrecks, natural disasters, fires, robbery, or war. Guys, just these events alone can be enough of a shock to our system to open up the door to demonic spirits. But then these soul wounds, once we have them, these emotional wounds, they begin to cause all kinds of negative emotions, and they form strongholds. Now, if you will remember, a stronghold is a system of belief that is false. And whenever we believe the lies of the enemy, whenever we hold false beliefs, we truly believe them, then that gives the enemy a hold, a very strong hold in our life to manipulate us and to cause us all kind of grief and pain. I want to look at some of the different, now this is just a few, there's many negative emotions caused by trauma, caused by wounds to our soul, but here are just a few. There's anger, fear, hatred, unforgiveness and bitterness, sadness, feelings of being unloved or unliked, feelings of guilt, shame, worthlessness, hopelessness, confusion, self-hatred, anxiety. And like I said, there are many, many more. An example of how the enemy can cause wrong beliefs, strongholds in our life is, let's just say, for example, that we are abused. And because of that, the enemy is able to convince us through that event, through emotions and feelings, that we're unworthy of love, that we deserve to be rejected. That's a lie. It's not the truth. It's a deception of the enemy. But that is one way. But that is how he can cause us to believe things that's simply not true. And these negative emotions will open the door wider. It will open the door to more demonic activity in our life. The effects of soul wounds and negative emotions truly takes a toll on us. It really does. I want to go over some of the ways that it does affect us ongoing within our life. Soul wounds and negative emotions is like baggage that we drag around through our life. If we don't get healed by the Lord, These emotions, they're pressed down within us. We think that we're okay, but really it's not okay. That stuff is still pressed down within us, and it's like baggage that we drag into every relationship. We drag into friendships and marriages, and even our relationships with our children, work-related relationships, and all relationships. The second thing is any little thing can trigger the pain and the negative emotions from these wounds. Like we won't even know. Someone will say some little something, and it'll trigger a reaction that's not justified, that it should not have triggered. And it's not because of what that person said. It's because what they said triggered something that happened a long time ago, and the emotions that are deep on the inside of us. So it causes all kinds of relationship problems, and this happens a lot in marriages from past failures and abuses and all different kinds of things that's happened in our childhood that makes it very difficult to be successful in a marital relationship or to have a good relationship with our children. Okay, number 3, soul wounds attack our identity, who we are as a person. It will make us believe things about ourselves that's just not true. Actually, number 4, soul wounds twist and distorts our image of ourselves. It will make us behave in ways that are outside of our true nature, our true personality, our true character of how God created us to be and who we would be if it was not for all these wounds on the inside of us that's still there, that's just filled with poison and it's just waiting to be aroused at any time. And like I say, most of the time you're not even going to know why you're reacting the way you are. Maybe it's been 15, 20 years since that event happened, and you're not even going to make the correlation between how you're behaving now and that thing that happened a long time ago, but it is there. But once you go to God purposefully, and that's what these teachings are all about, is going to God to purposefully be healed, to open up these wounds, and we'll talk about that a lot more in the next teaching. But open up those wounds and get out all of the negative emotions that are in there, and bring healing to those wounds so that we can be our true personality can be restored, and the joy that we should have and the peace that we should have in our lives can be restored to us, and we can cut off the activity, the workings of the devil, of demonic spirits in our lives, simply by tearing down these houses that they have built within us through sinful acts against us. Okay, I'm on number 5. What we're talking about here is how does soul wounds and negative emotions affect us? Okay, number 5, they affect how we see others and even how we view God. Not being able to trust people, putting walls up in front of ourselves. We'll talk about that a little bit more later, the spirit of rejection and how that works against us in that way. But just all kinds of things of how we view others and even how we view God because of soul wounds, traumatic events, things that have happened in our past. Number 6, they affect how happy we are. It can cause underlying depression, deep sadness, just all kinds of problems. Okay, number 7, they affect our ability to function properly in life. These scabbed over soul wounds and the negative emotions that comes from them, they affect our ability to function properly in life. Number 8, they affect how we treat people. Number 9, they affect our decision making. We'll go down wrong roads. We'll take wrong turns. We won't make the right decisions because of wounds in our soul from the past and the negative emotions, the woundedness that they've caused within us. Number 10, they affect our relationship with others. 11, they weaken us and can be a door opener to the demonic. I've already said that. Sometimes I get ahead of myself. Okay. Number 12, soul wounds can cause fragmenting of the soul. Okay. Fragmenting of the soul can occur when the trauma is bad enough, or if it continues over time. This fragmenting creates another identity or multiple identities or personalities within the person who carries these traumatic memories, and to help them escape the pain and trauma. This is a coping mechanism that gives the victim a place to escape. A place to escape to during the trauma. It also helps keep the victim from having a nervous breakdown. This is called dissociative disorder or multiple personality disorder. The person with this disorder will have periods of time missing in which they cannot remember. They may not remember their trauma at all. One of their personalities do. The one that holds these memories and the one that takes over during the traumatic events. I'm talking about if it's ongoing traumatic events. For example, a child being abused. If that goes on and on, or sexually molested or whatever, if that goes on and that child's mind breaks off and develops a whole new identity, then the new identity will come and be there during the traumatic event when that molestation or that abuse occurs, so that the core person doesn't have to endure all of that. And really, guys, that's the way that the Lord, our mind is just a tremendous thing. It's amazing. It's so amazing. The way it's able to do that, to break off and to form a whole new personality to help the core person cope with that trauma. Okay. A fragmented person can be made whole by God's power and love too. The medical community says that this is something that is not curable. It's not fixable. But that's not true. I've seen God heal people's minds who have been fragmented from abuse and trauma from their childhood. And so I know that it can happen, and it does happen. It takes work. It takes a combination of deliverance, casting out demons. Because if a person has been abused, if they've had trauma to the point that they're fragmented, rest assured there's many demons that's also there at work within that person to hold them in that captivity. But whenever you combine inner healing and deliverance and spiritual growth is important too. Learning God's ways and learning a lot about God with these things combined, and a lot of love. A person who has this condition can quickly be healed from it. I've seen it happen. It's happened many, many times. Okay, now there's evil people who does these things on purpose because they understand the devastating effects of trauma, abuse, pain to the soul, to the body, and to the soul. And they understand how powerful it is if a person is broken and fragmented in this way, how easily that person can be manipulated and controlled. So it is for the purpose of mind control, and evil people actually do this on purpose. This is called satanic ritual abuse, and there's other forms of it. Even our government has been accused of using, and I know they have, of using mind control to test and control people in military and in other situations. And it's not just those two. It's many other forms of control, and it's all demonic. Of course, it's evil to the core. I mean, how horrible it is to hurt people purposefully so that you can have control over them. But it happens all the time. We know it does. But I am talking about those, because even people from satanic ritual abuse, yes, they can be healed. But that's not going to be, even though there is a lot of that goes on. I'm not saying it's not. There is a lot of that goes on. But there's a whole lot more of people that are not satanically ritually abused, but they just have life's traumatic events that causes these same problems, these very same problems. And it can be healed in all the same way, whether it was done purposefully by evil people, or whether it was done not purposefully by hurting people, because hurting people hurt people. And so in most cases, that's what it's going to be: hurting people, hurting other people, not just evil people that sets out to hurt people in order to control them. Okay, I want to give now some examples of traumatic events and the demonic doors that it opens. I'm just going to give a few just for the purpose of helping you understand what I'm saying. Okay, the first one, and I think that we will put this on the screen for you to see, is rape. Okay, all kinds of sexual demons will enter in as a result of rape, like lust, homosexuality, adultery, fornication, incest, harlotry, rape itself, exposure, frigidity, pedophilia, plus many other spirits like fear, anger, rejection, unworthy. Yeah, there's demons that will drive those feelings of being unworthy. Shame, guilt, retaliation, bitterness, and many others. It's not good at all. It's just not good. And yes, from things like this, people will be filled with many demons. It's true. It will open the door to many demons. I know a woman, I ministered to a woman who was gang raped. And she said that immediately after this happened to her, all she could think about was sex continually. And it drove her to prostitution. She didn't do the prostitution for the money as much as she did because of an insatiable desire for sex. And this happened to her. This came immediately after the rape, and the gang rape. And what's so amazing about this is that she was unconscious for the rape. She was not even conscious. They drugged her. And still, this happened. And it just opened the door to all kinds of things, as you can imagine. One bad thing leads to another bad thing. That event led to years of prostitution, which opened up all kinds of other doors. Okay, the next one that I want to talk about is a child is sexually abused. Okay, this can open up the door to demons of sexual confusion, to confuse that child so that child, when he grows up or she grows up, they'll be sexually confused. They won't know if they're supposed to be attracted to men or women. They'll just be confused. It opens up the door to demons of homosexuality. And yes, we know that homosexuality is demonic. It is demonic activity. It is perversion. It is against nature. It is against God's ways. I'm not saying that God hates homosexuals. No, he doesn't. He doesn't. He loves them. And I feel really bad for them because they've been taken advantage of. They've been deceived. And they've been horribly, many times it's not their fault at all. It's not their fault at all. Sin has been done to them, and it's opened up doors of demonic spirits that drives them in this direction. It's not their fault. Okay, a child being sexually abused will also open up the door. It don't every time, but it opens up the door to pedophilia. It opens up the door to demonic spirits of shame, guilt, fear, self-hatred, eating disorders, fear of becoming a pedophile. I know a young woman who was molested as a child, and yes, she was attacked by homosexual spirits. She never gave in to that. But she was also constantly attacked by fear of becoming a pedophile. Not pedophilia itself, but fear of becoming a pedophile. So that this young lady was afraid to touch children. She was afraid to hold them on her lap because she was afraid. She felt dirty when she did. And she felt like that she was just afraid. It wasn't that she wanted to touch them in an inappropriate way, but she was afraid that she might. And she was healed by the Lord. But had she not been, think how that would have affected her if she had children. She probably would have been withdrawn from her own children, afraid to touch them, having this demon that's constantly accusing her of pedophilia. So Satan's got a million ways of destroying lives, of bringing pain and destruction and evil, every bad thing into people's lives. Okay, a child is sexually abused. Where was I? Okay, spirits of rejection, spirits of being unworthy, depression, anger, and violence. Okay, the next one that I want to talk about is physical abuse. It can open up all kinds of doors, let all kinds of demons come in. But I'm just going to, talk about some of them. Fear, again, anger, depression, rejection, feelings of being unloved, helplessness, hopelessness, self-hatred, feelings of being unworthy of love, feelings of being worthless, feelings of anxiety, suicide, spirits, demons of suicide that tries to drive them to suicide. And these demons all work together. They will all work together. And I've seen it many times. And I've cast many of these out of people who have been traumatized. Demons of dread, apprehension, despair, nightmares, and guilt. Okay, the next one is suicide of a loved one. My own dad was committed suicide when I was 4 years old. I know I talked to you guys about my daddy, and I tell you that he's a Southern Baptist pastor, and that's true. But my real father, that's my stepfather, my real dad committed suicide when I was 4 years old. And then I had a brother who also committed suicide later when I was older. And I never realized how my daddy's suicide affected me until I went through deliverance and inner healing myself. And the Lord began to uncover, and He will do that for you as well. As you submit yourself to inner healing, He will reveal things to you that's on the inside of you that causes you to feel the way you do and behave the way you do that you don't even understand, you don't even realize. And the reason I put this is because this was like that for me. I had no idea that I held unforgiveness for my dad until the Lord brought that to light, and other feelings, rejection, feelings of being unloved, and abandonment, different things that was inside of me in a womb from my daddy's death when I was 4. The way that made me feel at that time, the way it wounded me, and the way that was, and I thought I was fine. I didn't know I had any pain or anything from that as an adult until the Lord revealed it and healed it. Okay, so suicide of a loved one, sorrow, grief, suicide. That's a generational curse. My daddy and my brother did. So you know full well that I have done some spiritual warfare for myself and my family concerning the generational curse of depression and suicide. And that thing's gone from my life. I know it is, and I believe God that it's gone from my generation altogether and all future generations. But anyway, okay. Hatred, guilt, anger, rejection, unforgiveness, bitterness, feelings of being unloved, unwanted, and abandonment, and many others, I'm sure. Okay, now I want to talk for a few minutes about rejection, because rejection is a feeling. It makes us feel a certain way when we are rejected. It's painful. It hurts. It's something that everyone deals with. It is a fact of life, and I'm going to tell you that most people has a demonic spirit of rejection. It's a very common one. Whenever I do deliverance, usually that's the first thing I go after is rejection, because I'm almost 100% sure it's there. Okay. Now, it affects different people to different degrees and different levels. The worst form of rejection comes from parents when a child grows up feeling unloved, not valued, not approved, or affirmed by a parent, or especially in the cases of abuse. The deepest rejection wounds comes from those that we love and trust, because nobody can hurt you like people you love and people that you trust and people that love you. I started to say people you believe love you, but actually people that do love you, because we all we hurt people. You know, the best of people hurt others without meaning to. And the more you grow as a child of God, the closer you get to God, the more you surrender your life to God, then the less that you will hurt people. But still, we hurt each other. What can it's true, we do. Rejection trauma opens the door up to many demonic bondages, like grief, fear of man, fear of rejection, fear of ridicule, loneliness, isolation, rejection of self, rejection of others, feelings of being unloved and unliked, intimidation, feelings of not good enough, never measuring up, feeling like no matter what you do, you can't measure up. Comes from rejection, comes from a spirit of rejection. Not worthy of love, condemnation, guilt, shame, and all kinds of low self-esteem issues comes from being rejected. It causes all kinds of problems in our future relationships. And the deeper, like I say, the deeper it is, when it's someone that you really love and you really trust, and they wound you deeply, then yes, then that it goes very deep, and it don't heal over time. It just feels like it's healed because it's so pressed down, but it's just there waiting to be triggered. Okay, because of the fear of rejection, we are afraid to have relationships. We throw walls up in front of ourselves in order to protect ourselves from further being wounded. It causes divisions in families. Rejection does. People feeling rejected, and they just drift away from the other family members. And that's why they do so, because they feel unloved. They feel rejected, whether it's true or not, because of things that have been said or actions that have been taken. And it leads to isolation and loneliness. And that's a lot of times, that's why people leave churches too, because of rejection. They feel rejected by the church. They feel rejected by the leaders. They feel misunderstood. They don't feel accepted and loved. And that is rejection. And it causes wounds. And yes, it causes all kinds of things. It'll cause unforgiveness and bitterness. And then, yes, it opens up the door to more tormenting spirits. So unless it's dealt with, we will live in a perpetual state of woundedness Now, when we grow in the Lord, when we get strong in the Lord, and we do things to build our self-esteem, then we can get free from some of this, and it doesn't affect us as powerfully as it does some people, but it still does affect us to some degree unless we get healed of it. But we can be healed. That's the good news. That's the good news that I have for you, that we can be healed from the devastating effects of rejection and even become immune to rejection. Rejection. No, rejection. I know I make those word mistakes a lot, and y'all are gracious and you don't say anything, you just look over it. I really appreciate that. Okay. Breaking the hold of rejection. So how do we do it? How can we become immune to rejection? Allow our identity to be formed in Christ alone. Don't worry about what people think about you. What does God say about you? How does He feel about you? Accept that and reject other people's opinion. Just reject rejection. Okay? Don't worry about what people think. What does God think? Keep that foremost. And then forgive others quickly when they do reject you. Release their words or their actions to God quickly, so that doesn't set in. And that's really what we have to do with all wounds against us, is go to God quick. The quicker you go to God and let Him heal those wounds, the better. But the older those wounds are, the deeper they are, the harder they are to be healed. But even still, once you know how to receive inner healing, it's not hard. Anybody can do it. And I'm going to teach you how in the next video. But let me try to quickly get to the end of this one. I don't think I have too much further to go. Okay, things that hinder inner healing. Number 1, not trusting God. Number 2, not knowing God's love for you. Number 3, not knowing and trusting in God's goodness. Number 4, not seeing yourself as God sees you. Number 5, not being able to forgive yourself. Number 6, not loving yourself. Number 7 is not being willing to forgive others with no strings attached. Forgiveness. Guys, forgiveness is important. The last video that I think it was the last one I did a whole video just on forgiveness, because it's so vitally important. It's so very important. So if you missed that video, please go back and watch it. Or if you feel like you need a refreshment, go back and watch it. Okay. Guys, I want to try to tear down some strongholds real quick about who God is, about God. I want us to think together for a few minutes in order to tear down strongholds about God. Think about, what is a good daddy? What is a good daddy? Because we know that God is better than the best dad ever in history. Whoever he might be, God is just a million times better. Because you know what? There are no perfect people, but God is perfect. But in order to help wrap our brains around how good God is, let's think about a really good daddy, earthly daddy. Number 1, he loves his children. He always puts their needs before his own. Number 2, he delights in his children. He loves to spend time with them. He enjoys their company. Number 3, he's a protector. Number 4, he's a provider. Number 5, he delights in teaching, counseling, instructing, and guiding his children. Number 6, he disciplines them out of love and with love. Number 7, he's very patient. 8, he's kind. 9, he's trustworthy. 10, he wants the very best for his kids. And 11, he knows how to give good gifts, and he delights in doing that. He delights in giving good gifts to his children. Now we know, I'm not saying these things to make anybody, feel guilty about their parenting skills, but I am doing this to help, because there are no perfect dads, right, or moms, but just to help us to see how good God is. Okay, So how does a good daddy, a really good daddy, see his children? He sees them as beautiful. Number one, beautiful. A good earthly father is what we're talking about. He sees them as beautiful. Don't matter what they look like. To him, they are beautiful, right? Number two, special. He sees his children as special. He sees them as worthy. He sees them as loved and cherished because he loves and cherishes them. He sees them as capable. He sees them as gifted and talented. That's number six. Sorry, I started going kind of fast. Number seven, he sees them with purpose and value, as having purpose and value. He just looks at them kids and he knows that there's greatness on the inside of them. He just knows it. He sees them as his own creation. Him and his wife's creation. He sees them as his own special treasure. He sees them as a gift. Number 10, he sees them as a gift from God. Number 11, he sees them as unique. Number 12, he sees their best side. He's not always looking for their faults, looking to see where they're weak, noticing what they can't do and what they don't know. But he's always looking at their best side, what they do know, what they can do, how smart they are. He looks at their best side and he sees their potential. Guys, that's God, right? Even better, so much better. An earthly dad can stand up to these things if he really tries. If he's a godly man, if he prays a lot for himself, then he can measure up to most of the stuff. But you know what? God is all this and a whole lot more because he's perfect. He's the best dad ever. He's for you. He's on your side. He's not against you. He has your back. He'll never leave you. He'll never forsake you. You can always count on him. He loves you. He loves you so much. Well, guys, that's all I have for this video. The next video, which is coming shortly, I'm going to continue on in inner healing. And we're actually going to do an exercise in inner healing together, because what this is about is teaching you how to purposefully go to God, to have those wounds within your soul healed so that you can shut the door on the devil, so that you can have a happier, a more blessed, and a more prosperous life. Well, that's all I have for now. God bless you guys. I love you. Bye-bye.